Thank you very much, Mr. President. Well, this has been an interesting evening in a lot of different ways. I'd just like to clarify a couple of things that I heard said, and I wrote them down here so I wouldn't forget them. One of the members mentioned that the 2007, when we adopted, as Senator Laval explained in great detail and with accuracy, a reform that was put in effect in 2008, that we did not follow that. As a matter of fact, we did. That law said a resolution must be adopted within 10 days, establishing conference committees and a schedule of meeting of those conference committees. And that did occur, exactly as the law outlined it. And also, as Senator Laval pointed out, a procedure that we've been trying for years to get through both houses, and we're unsuccessful in doing up until that point in time. So that's an error that I think should be corrected. One of the points made is that we have a structural deficit of $13 billion. I think that was the figure that Senator Parker mentioned, which is interesting because last year we increased the budget by $13 billion. So one could very well say that we created the problem we're now dealing with.
They created.
When I say we, I mean you, because I didn't vote for it, nor did anyone else on this side of the aisle vote for it. Now, there was a new term used here today that I'd never heard in discussing the budgetary process, and the term was critical mass. I reached back in time in my college physics to try and recall what the definition of critical mass is. And what it is when a number of electrons, at proper speed and velocity, along with a number of neutrons, also at a proper number and velocity, impound the neutron, the center of the atom. Now, what you have at that point in time, gentlemen and ladies, is an explosion. Now, what the chairman of finance is saying is that we have to wait for an explosion to occur before we can begin the process. Now, I suggest to you that that's not the smart way to go. But if you look at what we now are dealing with, aside from what has been said here by Senator Lanza and others, one-party rule, which has not produced the results that they claimed it would, the possibility of liabilities being incurred by the state in terms of contracts not being fulfilled, whatever those liabilities may end up being in dollars and cents, no one knows, but they certainly are out there. The loss of jobs, been talked about here at length, I need not repeat it. The endangerment of the general public. We have one senator whose bridge fell down. The embankments had to be demolished. I mean, there are bridges and roads all over the state which are in the middle of repair or in need of repair that are being laid aside. Contracts entered in with unions have been abrogated, delayed in terms of their effective date. And worst of all, lawmakers are becoming, at least in this House, and in both houses, I imagine, lawbreakers by virtue of what has been said here repetitively in terms of the process that we were supposed to be following. So I would suggest to you, Senator Kruger, we've long gone past critical mass. We're there. And we better move very quickly in terms of the things we should be doing and must be doing. Extenders, if there is a process in place, can be appropriate. We don't want government to come to a halt. But there is no process that we're involved in at this point in time. And that's what I believe is the greatest failure that we have been expressing here. All of the members have spoken to date, to point. I will vote for this extender because on balance, you have to. But at the same time, I do it with great reluctance. And I suggest to you that while I don't envy you the position you find yourself in, having to defend what's been going on here, not entirely the fault of this House. The Assembly shares a big part of the blame. Not the fault of the governor, who's being ignored, another part of that nuclear problem we're involved in. Who calls for a meeting, and people won't come. I mean, in my 38 years here, through 5 different governors, I've never seen that happen, where a governor calls for a meeting of the legislators to meet with him to talk about the executive budget, and they say, we're not coming. When I say we, some of them say they're not coming. I know Senator Skiles would be happy to be there. But the Speaker says no. I'm not sure about what's said on this side of the aisle. But that's horrible. And when the people pick up their newspaper and they read that, they just, it's impossible for them to understand. How could the legislature refuse to meet with the governor to talk about the governor's executive budget? So critical mass is here, Senator Krueger, and we better get about our business or else we're really in deep trouble.